YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today I'm predicting every single NFL team's win range for the 2022 season. So we'll see, in my opinion, teams' ceilings and teams' floors in terms of win totals for this year. So I challenge myself a little bit with this one because I can take the easy way out and just predict, all right, this team will win anywhere between 6 and 12 games. That's cheating. That's cheating because you're likely going to get it right, every single time if you do that. So challenge myself a little bit. I have 4 different win totals for every single NFL team. So an example would be Team A. I'm predicting them to win somewhere between 1 and 4 games. I actually don't have that prediction for anyone, but so 1, 2, 3, or 4 wins. That's 4 different options. We see the ceiling, we see the floor. So I'm excited to go over it for every single NFL team. We'll see which ones are accurate. I think a lot of these will be accurate. I feel very good here about these predictions. So you guys can play along in the comments. Would like to see your opinion as well. Always talking to you on Twitter. News, rumors, updates, and more. Preseason Week 2 picks are up there now. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on here on the channel because we have full NFL coverage. When I say full, I mean it as well. Here's our Twitter. Preseason Week 2 picks. I'm kind of hiding all the picks there. They're on the Twitter. We did very well in preseason Week 1. Of course, regular season picks will be on the channel. You guys know our Pick'ems videos. Cannot wait for that. A lot going on that Twitter, though. You're really missing. We're talking during live games as well. This game tonight, so check it out. AFC East teams, the Jets. I went with the win range of 5 to 8. So floor 5, ceiling 8. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I challenged myself to make every single team 4 different win total options. So 5, 6, 7, or 8. That's 4 different options there for the Jets. This was a tough one. I was debating with myself, do I go 4 through 7 range or do I go 5 through 8? Because they realistically can win 4 games this year, and then I'm wrong. I'm wrong with this one by 1, basically with that 5. So it was tough, but I went with the 5 to 8. This is one of the toughest ones. At 4 to 7, 5 to 8, back and forth, but they should be a much better team than last year. I still think the offense is a work in progress. If Flacco starts, they actually might be better, even though they're better off with Wilson starting for different reasons. Obviously, that's a different topic. I think everyone knows why. Well, basically, they want him to continue to improve. He's only going to improve playing, but their defense looks pretty good actually for the Jets. So they could single-handedly win them some ball games as well. Going back to offense, they got a lot better with looking at the offensive line, the weapons. So I think that 5 to 8 range is what I'm going with. It very well. Most people maybe would predict that 4 to 7. So back and forth with my prediction there. I went with the 5 to 8. We'll see what they do. We'll see how many games Flacco or Wilson plays. If one plays the whole season or if it's a mix and match there. We'll see. Patriots went with the 7 to 10 range. Really thought about the 8 to 11 range as well. So I basically had to decide here, is 7 wins more likely or 11? Basically, with those 2 different options there. And I thought them winning 7 games was more likely than 11. It's pretty close. Not that I'm predicting them to win 7 games, but so I ended up going with that 7 to 10 range. They win 10 games last year. Pretty good season. They struggled later in the year, though, as well. The defense kind of went downhill, but they won the 10 games. They had a lot of good young players that were continuing to get better, and those guys can continue to get better, so could they be better than maybe that 10 wins last year because of that? That's possible. I do feel like they, on paper, in terms of the roster, maybe they got a little bit worse, so it's tough, and then you factor in the coaching staff mess. We don't know if it's a mess yet. Maybe mainly with the offensive play calling. So I factored that in as well. And I think the other AFC East teams are getting a little bit better here. I think all of them. So that makes it tough as well. So I went with the 7 to 10 range. The big questions and what I'm looking forward to seeing for the Patriots this year. Yeah, that offensive play calling. Who's doing it? I think Patricia. It seems like they're battling. In preseason are getting some reps, switching off there between Patricia and Judge. And then how will it be? And then will the young players' development overtake, maybe, losing J.C. Jackson, guys like that. So we'll see. So I went the 7 to 10 range. The Bills, actually, I went the 11 to 14 range. So you see a pretty good win total here, obviously, which I think everyone would have predicted me to have. I think everyone will have a prediction of a big win total for the Buffalo Bills. Could have went the 10 to 13 range, could have went the 11-14, which I did, or maybe you could have went the 12 to 15 range as well for the Buffalo Bills. It's just tough seeing teams win 15 games. Good teams slip up all the time, and it just happens. The Bills do it last year. So I went 11 to 14. Because I think they have one of the better rosters, if not the best roster in football, they can win with offense or defense. So I'm expecting them to land in this win range here. For the Dolphins, went to that 8-11 range. This is one where I'm curious to see people's prediction here. In the comments, I would actually think most people may go that 7-10 range, which I thought about as well. Maybe you could even go 9-12. I think that's possible. But are they going to win 12 games? I guess. But I'm just thinking last year they won 9 games. They won a huge losing streak on top of that with a kind of a disaster. And then that's 9 wins. And then you factor in that we would think they got better with the offensive play calling, but they got better with the weapons, the offensive line. I think the defense should be about the same, which is a very good defense. All of that, it's a good sign here that they should be at least around the range they were last year. Every year is different, though. The other teams got better, worse. Schedule's different. So I went with that 8-11 range. The Dolphins are growing on me a little bit. A lot of hype around Tua. Will he execute come Sundays, though? We will see. But I went with that 8-11 range, so looking pretty good for the Dolphins there. On to the NFC East teams. The Washington Commanders, I went to 7-10. Thought about the 8-11, but what was more likely to happen, 7 wins or 11 wins? I thought 7. Now that's my prediction, but 7-10 range is where I ended up with. It's just really on Carson Wentz. Which Carson Wentz are we going to get? I think we know we're not going to get a completely just terrible one or a completely elite one, but. Is he going to cost some games like he's been, like he cost the Colts games last year? Where's the defense at? Because we thought it might be elite last year. It wasn't that, but I thought it was getting better as the year went on. It started off pretty bad, actually, which was odd. So where's it going to be at? Is it going to be consistent? But they got a talented team. I think, people talk about the NFC East. They say Eagles or Cowboys, and they kind of forget the Commanders. I think they could be in that conversation. Like, even if you still, if you still want to predict them to finish third, that's fine. But they could be in that conversation, with those teams. I think it's realistic for them to finish first, second, or third. But that 7-10 range, there could be a lot of splitting games in the NFC East. But it's tough. 8-11, I think would have been a realistic prediction as well. Would anybody predict 6-9? I think some people probably would predict that, so we'll see. I'm just actually more curious, not the Carson Wentz. That seems to be more a storyline, but I'm more curious on that defense. Is it going to play like the defense it can be, or is it still kind of like a work in progress there? Because that defense, just think about it. I think I brought this up in the past, and it kind of makes me grow on the Commanders a little bit. Like, what if that defense plays like it should, which I think is better than what it's been playing? Like, what if it plays like an elite defense or close to elite defense? They're going to win a lot of ball games. They're going to win a lot of ball games. So, and it's very realistic for, say we're halfway through the season and the Commanders are maybe the best defensive football, one of the best defensive football. We really shouldn't be surprised. I think it's a realistic scenario. So we'll see. Maybe I'm talking to myself in that 8-11 range. I think 7's pretty realistic, though. Not that that's my prediction, but that's a tough one as well. Giants, I went 4-7. I think they get better with that coaching staff. It's weird, kind of mixed thoughts, I think, on the Giants so far, or what's kind of being put out there, because training camp, it sounds like quarterback plays a mess, and they can't really figure out the Daboll offense and playbook. And then the first preseason week, they had a pretty damn good first drive, minus Kenny Golladay. Everyone else looked pretty good. Well-called drive, quick, looked like they understood it. So, and then all of a sudden, and after the game, now we're hearing this week during more practice, and like, is Tyrod Taylor going to overtake Daniel Jones? So it's like we're all over the place here with this, because that's not a great sign if that's the case. But if he's better than that obviously they can win more games. But it's just not a great sign for how the offense is being run in practice, is what I'm saying. So it's a little tricky. I mean, they got good ball players on both sides of the ball. It's just, will they figure it out? Will they be able to consistently push the ball on offense? Will they consistently take care of the ball? Will they be able to put teams away? Will they turn it over to get them, take a win away like they did in the past? So I went with 4-7 wins. It's a little tricky because I can see them being sneaky as well. I just, the other option was 5-8. I just don't see them winning 8 games. I really don't. So I went with the 4-7 range here. The Cowboys, I went with 9-12. And the Cowboys it's like pretty firm on. I think they're going to win in that range. I think it's going to be like 10 or 11, maybe 10 wins. You almost can, pinpoint them on that. I think most people would. But they won 12 games last year. Maybe it could be a little tougher this year. Maybe the Commanders and the Eagles could be a little tougher. Maybe the Giants are tougher. And they technically got worse on paper as well. So maybe that 12 is at ceiling this year, even though that's what they got last year. But I'm pretty firm on them, pegging them in that, spoiler, maybe that 10-win range. It's like one of those teams where I'm pretty firm on where my prediction is. We can even tighten up that range a little bit. And then we go on to the Eagles. And the Cowboys do have a better win range prediction from me, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm predicting the Cowboys to win a division because, I'm pretty firm on the Cowboys winning 10 games. I could go 9. That's possible. The Eagles, I go 8-11, but they might be on the upper side of that. They might be, but I just did not feel good about going 9-12. I just don't know if they're going to win that 12 games. I could see 8 if Hurts is struggling. They had some weird moments last year, so I can see 8 more than I can see 12 for sure. So that's why I went to 8-11 range, but I'm pretty firm on them as well around that 9, 10, 11 range. So it's a very good roster. It's a team that's grown on me a little bit recently. So the Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders debate for that division is legit here. It's going to be fun to watch. So, yeah, Eagles 8-11. It's just going to be, which Hurts we going to get. Because there was games last year where it was just a low-scoring defensive battle, and sometimes they squeaked them out, and sometimes they didn't. But they got to be able to score more points. They got to be able to consistently be better on offense. So, and I think they'll be better. How much better? Can they get that 11 wins, or could they push 12 there? So we'll see. That's an interesting one too, because maybe some people would predict the 7-10. Some people would probably predict the 9-12. I went right in the middle there, 8-11. Ravens, I went with the 9-12 for them. They were competing for a playoff spot last year. That's why they were pretty beat up. They got to stay healthy though, but they should be much better this year. They do have a tough schedule, I noticed. Defense, they're making changes for the better. Will there be some growing pains that could happen? I think they really match up better what they're doing defensively against some of the teams they've had problems with, so it's definitely for the better. Offensively, they should continue to be a problem, but, having guys with injury concern, having a lack of receiver, weapons at the receiver position, maybe not the greatest edge group, those are some important things, so could that keep them on the lower side of this? Not that that's my prediction, but you kind of can understand where, because I think some people probably would go the 10-13 range for the Ravens. That's kind of where I was like, what if, so that's why I kind of kept it at 9-12 range. With the Ravens, as long as they're out, they should be back, should be a playoff team. So I felt good about the 9-12 range there. Browns, so the news actually came out this morning. Deshaun Watson will be spending 11 games. That is 12 weeks. You factor in the bye week. So therefore, and right now, Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback. I did kind of factor in that Garoppolo could become their quarterback. This would change a little bit, but I kind of thought that because I was thinking about the 5-8 range, because they got a tough schedule. Brissett hasn't really been able to get the job done. I like the roster, I like the defense. Maybe I'm coming down on him a little bit, though, because I realized that receiver unit is scary in a bad way. So I was actually going to go maybe the 5-8 range. I'm like, they got a good roster. They might get Garoppolo, and they will get Watson back late. So I bumped it up to 6-9, but this is probably the toughest one in the whole video. But I went with that 6-9 range here for the Cleveland Browns. But there's maybe some people, in their head, like Brissett's the guy until Watson's back. Then they may go like 3, probably more than 3. If 4 wins to whatever, 4-7, there's probably some people that are like, maybe they'll go higher in this, because they think they're going to get Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they got a good enough roster. It's just the Browns are a really tough one. They're a real pain in the ass when it comes to these prediction videos with this whole Watson situation, but it's starting to finally get cleared up. It finally gets cleared up, and you're like, all right, we can predict better, but it's like, oh, are they going to get Jimmy Garoppolo, or are they not going to get him, So it just makes the whole thing a little messy. Steelers, I went to 6-9 range as well. Really thought about the 7-10 because they just find ways to win games. They're well coached. They got a good roster. They do have the quarterback questions, I guess, right now. So I thought about the 7-10, but I felt a little more comfortable with the 6-9 range just because I know the quarterbacks look good in that preseason week 1 games, but it's risky to be the starter. And I still think there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of and we've seen him show up in games that didn't matter in the past, and we see that preseason week 1. I think he'll be better than what he was in the past, but how much will he slip up? I think, yes, he'll have some of those slip-up games. What about the offensive line as well? They have weapons. The defense looked like it took a step down last year. I think it could be a little bit better Well, I mainly took a step down not because pass rush or anything, but because of run defense. I think it could be a little bit better this year, but I still don't think it's that elite Steelers defense that we're used to. So I went that 6 to 9 range. I was really back and forth that 7 to 10 range. But I felt more comfortable with this. But we'll see. I want to see these quarterbacks in more preseason action here, which we will get to do this week. Bengals, I went the 10 to 13 range. They win 10 games last year. I have that as the bottom line this year. I think they were kind of just getting going. I think they were just getting going, kind of entering the playoffs last year. So tough schedule, but they should be in that range. They can win on either side of the ball. They improved that offensive line. We like to think there. So they're still growing. So I like them in that 10 to 13 range. There should be one of the better teams in the AFC. Lions, I went that 4 to 7 range. Thought about either side of this. I thought about the 3 to 6, and I thought about the 5 to 8. Mainly, their offense definitely could be better. I like what I saw in the small sample size in the preseason game. A solid offensive line. Goff should be a little bit better. How good will he be, though? Receivers better. Running game should be solid. But then I think about the defense, so I still really worry about that defense. I think, they can lose some shootouts. I don't know if that's a weird thing. I'm like, I actually could see the Lions in some shootouts this year because the offense is better. But you take a chunk of shootouts. How many are the Detroit Lions actually going to pull off and win? That's kind of my problem there. Probably on the lower side of that. Are the Lions going to win any shootouts? Again, so I think their offense will be better. The defense could be better than I'm thinking right now. I was probably higher on them a month ago because I love their draft classes, especially with these defensive guys. A lot of studs that should be making them better. They're going to continue to develop guys from last year, this year. But I think I was a little too high on that. I think I was expecting rapid development. I don't think it's going to be as rapid as I once thought. So the defense still definitely could struggle. Tackling could still be an issue here. Consistency mainly. So I went with the 4 to 7 range for the Detroit Lions. I definitely think they're heading in the right direction, though. I love their last couple draft classes, but let's see them in action here. Let's see Goff take that step up as well. The coaching staff as well. They got a lot of notable, likable guys in there. Guys that know how to motivate. Are they actually very good coaches? Are they really good coaches? So I got a lot to prove here. And the Bears, I was like 4 to 7 or 3 to 6. I'm kind of in that 3 to 6 range here. I think the Bears, everyone was confused on why they didn't do a better job building around Justin Fields. You still a little bit of a head scratcher to not make them a little bit better, but it's not much of a head scratcher though, because they almost like want to be in that position. They want to be in that rebuild position. I think they did a pretty good job drafting for what they had, but they're kind of focused on building through the draft these next couple years and saving that money to pounce on those available, very good young free agents to pair with the draft class. So they kind of put themselves in the 3 to 6 range situation. They could be 4 to 7. I was back and forth on it, but there's I don't think the offense is going to win them very many games, and the defense could be a little bit sneaky. But it might be a tough season for the Bears, but they could be heading in the right direction because that last draft class. I mean, we're basing off one preseason game, so I got to slow my roll a little bit. But I think they did a pretty good job drafting, especially not having a first round pick. So they could be heading in the right direction. It's not like the Lions where we kind of know they are because they got a lot of good young pieces. But I think the Bears could be getting to that direction, that level there. But this could be just a slow start or a rough year here. But so I got them in the 3 to 6. The Vikings thought about the 9 to 12. Went with the 8 to 11 though. Another team has got to stay healthy. Some big time. Look at this pass rush group. They got to stay healthy. They kind of been beat up. In the past. There. So, mainly a guy like Daniel Hunter, so that kind of hurt them a bit. But so it's one of those teams that could have a bigger range because are they going to get hurt again? For that reason. But one with the 8 to 11. I mean, they got a lot of talent though. They got a lot of talent. They got stars all over their team. So, the more I think about it, should I have gone 9 to 12 range? But it's hard to see the Vikings winning 12 games. Dealing with the Packers twice, which they could beat them one time. At least they do think they should. But new coaching staff, what do we expect? You don't really know what to expect from them. So I went with the 8 to 11. I do think on the higher side of that, probably the 10. They should be around a 10-win team. But I could, again, that's why I went 8 to 11. I could see the 8. Where's their defense at, with the corners? Are they going to stop the run a lot better this year or just a little bit better? Offense, I'm not really worried about. Offense should be pretty solid. I think everything's heading in the right direction. The Packers went with the 10 to 13 range, which No Devontae Adams. So does the offense take a step down? It very well could. Like the running back group they got, but the defense looks like it could be one of the better defenses in football. But yeah, they could have the weeks where maybe they don't score a whole lot of points, and that could cost them. But I still feel pretty good about them. They have Rodgers, who is dominant, especially during the regular season, and I think that they can have a dominant or close to defense. So 10-13 is what I felt good with. Colts, I was back and forth, the 8-11, the 9-12. What this basically came down to, I had to decide, is it more realistic to them to get 8 wins or 12 wins? I didn't see them getting to 12. I don't see them getting either. I don't see them getting 8 or 12, really, if I had to predict. But I think maybe the 8's a little more likely just because there's questions still. It's like, where's Matt Ryan at the stage of his career? I'd like to predict that he'll be better than Carson Wentz was last year, but where is he at? With that, the receivers, are they going to help him out a lot? There's still some questions there. Offensive line seems like it's slowly going down. It's still one of the better ones in football. And then defensively, they got better on paper, but I don't know about the scheme and the coaching. I think that actually got worse. So what's going to happen there? They got a lot of playmakers, so they're a little all over the place. It's weird because they're kind of all over the place in that sense. But I also am pretty confident that they're going to finish. We know, they're not going to be like a surprising terrible team. There's no way they're going to win only 7 games or so. That wouldn't be terrible. 5 games, and they're not going to be the superstar team that wins 12 or 13 games, we'll say. So I do feel pretty good about the 9-10. They're going to win, 9, 10, maybe 11 games. But there's still, at the same time, there's still some questions on how consistent they will be there. So I went to 8-11. Tennessee, which I've been 50-50 on who I'm predicting to win that division, Colts or Titans. But Titans, I went to 9-12. They're a pretty good regular season team. They're consistently very good. Derrick Henry's consistently a problem for teams to deal with, and he was hurt for a chunk of last year, and they still won 12 games. When I put it like that, maybe we should have the 10-13. But I do think maybe not quite as good this year. I think teams are starting to figure out Tannehill. Not that I think he'll be bad or anything like that. No A.J. Brown. I don't know if that affects them a whole lot, as much as people say, but it does affect them. I like their defense a lot, especially the way they ended things last year. But I felt pretty good about the 9-12. 10-13 was debated as well, but I felt pretty good 9-12. They should be in that 10-11-12 range, Tennessee Titans. So, it's on Tannehill to kind of step it up. Can he go out there and clutch a win game? But he has been doing that in the regular season. It's more so a playoff question. We're talking regular season, I think it's a pretty easy team to project for the regular season. You just know they're going to be a pretty solid team. Jags went 6-9, which might be a little high. I would predict that prediction will be higher than other people's predictions. We'll see your guys' comments. I think people think the Jags, they're a bad team. They might be 4-7. I'm a little higher on that. I actually thought about getting real bold and going 7-10. I just don't see them winning 10 games. I think the Jags are that ultimate sneaky team this year. They can be very, very sneaky here, especially from the AFC. Because I believe in Trevor Lawrence. I believe in Doug Peterson. I believe that they made their weapons better. Are they good enough, though? I guess that's a question. It's not really a yes or no. And defensively, I think they got better. A lot of young talent in there. I think they're going to be coached better as well. It's one of those defenses where it is, it's not the greatest defense, but is there really a hole on that defense? So you start to really think about this team. They could be a little sneaky. So I went that 6-9 range, and I actually was closer to going 7-10 than I was going 5-8. So you can see maybe I'm a little bit higher. Not that I'm high, but a little high on them, but a little bit higher on the Jags and maybe possible abilities of the Jags compared to other people there. So we'll see. Texans, I went with that 3-6 range. It's just, they could be a little sneaky in terms of winning. Maybe they can be a little bit better in 6, but just because Davis Mills could be better than we think. Running back group should be solid. They have Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins. Offensive line could be better. So in that sense, maybe they could be a little bit better than we all think. I still think it's a work in progress. It's kind of a little messy where they know they're not done at this position, that position. A lot of one-year deals, kind of just guys to bridge guys, kind of. Everyone always talks about bridge quarterback. They don't have the bridge quarterback. I think they got bridge guys in all these different spots here, even though technically they did get better, and I like the direction they're heading. So I think when it comes to that type of team, got better, but have a bunch of kind of bridge guys, and they're still trying to figure it out here and there. They could be sneaky. They could sneak up on a team and upset them any given week, which I think we'll see. Maybe we'll see them escape with some of those wins, but they're also going to be extremely inconsistent with that. So that's why I still feel like the 3-6 range. I definitely wasn't thinking the 2-5. I was pretty firm on the 3-6, but 4-7 was considered here. The Saints, which is a tough one too. They're not tough in the I know the range. I know where they're going to finish. It's not a team with a wide range, but it was tough to go. Do I go 8-11 or do I go 9-12? The Saints are a team that's been growing on me a little bit lately because I just like their roster. I think they have one of the better defenses in football. I think it's actually be a lot better than not a lot because it's always been good, but better than it was last year. I love the secondary, and they still have their defensive coach, Dennis Allen. And then offensively, the receiver group looks very, very good. They're almost going in a way from worst to first, not exactly like 32-1, but in that range with that group. And they have weapons, and I believe in Winston. Do I believe in Winston to stay healthy? That's the thing with the Saints, too. They were so beat up last year, so that's kind of in the back of your mind. So with all that being said, Saints are kind of growing on me because they have a very good team. It just keeps coming back to me that they don't have Sean Payton anymore, though. I don't think it affects the defense. How much does it affect the offense? And I look at their schedule again. It's a pretty tough schedule. So I want 8-11. I was strongly considering 9-12, and they're more likely to finish with 8 than 12. But it's pretty damn close. I mean, this is a team that could beat the Bucs twice in a year and maybe sneak up on them. But like I said in the beginning, I'm pretty. We know where the Saints are going to be. They're not going to win only 7 games, 6-7 games. They're gonna win at least 8. But they're not going to win an insane amount of games. So I feel pretty good about them. It's kind of like I said, the Cowboys. I felt pretty good about the Cowboys in that 9, 10-10. I felt like a team. I feel pretty good about the Saints at that 10 win range there. So, it's an interesting team. We'll see how they are without Sean Payton. The Buccaneers went 11-14. A dominant regular season last year, dominant team in general, and they should be able to continue to be that because they have weapons on offense. They have Tom Brady's leadership, his experience. It seems like he was all for Todd Bowles being the coach, so I'm not really too worried about Arians gone. It's not like a Sean Payton situation. It could end up being, maybe the Bucs missed their coach more than the Saints. What if? Possible. I don't see it, though. I think Brady, in a way, is a big enough leader there on that team. Just every part of this team is very, very solid. And they were beat up last year during the year, mainly in the secondary, and they still had an insane amount of wins, obviously, and one of the most in football. So felt pretty good with that 11-14 range for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think up there with the top-tier NFC teams and top-tier teams in all of football. Panthers went 6-9. I thought about 7-10, which probably says I'm kind of like the Jags. I had Jags 6-9 as well, which might be a little higher than most people I would think would do. So the Panthers maybe even at 6-9 might be a little high. I think most people should be in that range. There's probably some people that go 5-8, but I think most people should be in that 6-9 range. But I really thought about 7-10. Because I think they got a good team. I mean, they lost a lot of games, close games last year just because of bad quarterback play. They had a good defense and they had weapons. Now you had Baker Mayfield in there, who I believe in. Do I think he's going to be this great quarterback? No, but I believe in. I think he's far better than Sam Darnold. Not just a little bit, not just more than a little bit. I think he's far better than Sam Darnold. So, therefore, they should win a lot more of these games. So I really thought about the 7-10 range. I felt a little bit more comfortable with the 6-9. And that it actually is because Ben McAdoo. I'm not a big Ben McAdoo believer. We already saw in the week 1 preseason game, seen somebody break down the plays. Not the greatest route combinations there, so it's hard to fully invest in McAdoo, but they have a lot of talent. Love the Baker Mayfield edition, and they should be on the upper end of this. It was just had a hard time. I just had a hard time going not a hard time. I almost went 7-10 range, but are they more likely to win 10 games? 10 a lot, 10 or 6. I thought this range made a little bit more sense there. So, but the Panthers could be that sneaky team in the NFC. I think they could make a push to the playoffs. I kind of see them in that the winning 8 or 9 games there. So I am a little bit on the higher end of this range. The Falcons, I went 4-7, back and forth in the Falcons. Not big time because we know they could struggle a little bit this year, but 1 second I'm like, yeah, the Falcons could be the worst team in football. I'm not that was my prediction, but they could be one of the worst teams in football, and maybe their range is 3-6 or even 2 to. I don't think anyone's only winning 2 games, but the 3-6 range. Maybe they could be on the lower end of that, but I'm like, that's a unique offense. Mariota's not bad. He's very solid. He's him running around, them with their unique running style offense already, and then you have these big time targets. It's like, what do we do here? How do we contain this? How do we match up with this? It could be tricky. It could be tricky. So I'm kind of growing. I mean, I think about the defense. I'm like, the defense still could be one of the weaker ones in football. They could give up a lot of points, and are they going to be able to keep up in a shootout? No. So I'm like, all right, back down the Falcons. But I think the offense is growing on me a little bit. I went to 4-7 range. I still really worry about the defense. Another thing, too, they won 7 games with Matt Ryan last year, and you could say, all right, they're definitely worse this year because they went from Matt Ryan to Mariota. And I'd actually say maybe not. I won't say not so fast. I say maybe not so fast. Is Matt Ryan better than Mariota? Yes, he's definitely better. But the Falcons, they allowed a lot of interior pressure last year, pressure in general. Sometimes you're better off with a quarterback that's not as good, but that can escape and kind of being unique, a little more unique. And with Mariota, they are that. So they actually might be able to match. I don't see them being better, like all around better than they were last year. They might have a shot to kind of match that. So that's why I felt pretty good about the 4-7 range. I'm a little higher on their offense than I was. I'm a little lower on their, not lower, but I don't think there was progression on that defense. I think they got some good draft picks. I don't think it's going to help them a whole lot right away. I think it's kind of a work in progress still. So we'll see. We'll see what happens to the Falcons there. Broncos, I went 10-13. I thought about the 9-12 because in the back of my mind, for some reason no one's talking about it. I said it all year. In the back of my mind, I still got, is Russell Wilson 100% healthy? Yeah, I think he's 100% healthy, but is he going to have any problems with that? Even when he was healthy last year, or was he? He didn't play well. Not only did he not play Russell Wilson ball, he just really didn't play that well. So, and that's kind of in the back of my mind, and really no one has that for some reason. So there is a shot that I don't think it will, but that could happen. But at the same time, they're a very good roster still. So even Russell Wilson not as good as he used to be, it's still a very good team. So with all that, I really did consider the 9-12 because I could see in a scenario the 9-win range. But I just really like this roster. There's another team that's like, it's slightly growing on me. I can't really say they're growing on me because I was kind of already high on, like I was predicting them to win double-digit games. But they're kind of slightly growing on me because they have all these weapons. You guys know I'm a big Javonte Williams guy. The offensive line solid for Russell Wilson. It's just better than what he's had. We talk about the weapons. I think Courtland Sutton's going to be a stud. Defensively, we knew they had a good defense. At one point, I kind of wondered, though, how's the depth? They got a lot of these guys that could miss some games. How's the depth? Depth is really growing on me. They got some studs out there as well. And they feel a little, look at that preseason game. It just felt like they were so prepared. It felt like more like a team. That's the kind of, I can't base too much off that preseason game, but that's the vibes I got. So, kind of arguing the negative and the positive there that could happen. I was kind of leaning more towards the positive side here. So the 10-13 range. The big question is which Russell Wilson we're going to get. We're going to get elite Russell Wilson. We're going to get very good Russell Wilson. Or we're going to get that Russell Wilson last year that struggled a bit. I think all three are possible, which, again, I don't think anyone's talking about that for some reason. I think all three are possible. I think we're all in agreement that our prediction is more on that. I don't think he's going to be elite, but I think on that higher side there. So, big question for me. What I'm curious, I can't wait to see. So, 10-13 for the Broncos. Raiders, I went 9-12. For them, I think the difference, comparing to like a Broncos team, which the Raiders could finish, the same or better for sure, but so I'm not saying my prediction is the Raiders will finish under them or over them really. But the difference is the Raiders, I still question the defense a little bit. Cornerback position is one. Maybe the interior defensive line a little bit. The edge looks great. They got some pieces like Perriman and Mareg that I like as well. The edge is great. Like I said, I like their defense coordinator, Patrick Graham. I think the defense is a work in progress. I think they look at that, and even themselves, they look at that defense. It's like, this is not finished yet. It's definitely not finished. I think they look at the offense and be like, maybe the offensive line isn't finished, but our quarterback, our weapons, and the running game, the passing game, they have a play callers, the head coach. It's almost a finished product there. That's a win now product. Defensively, I think there's going to be weeks where it's like they really get after the quarterback and that defense looks great. And there's going to be weeks where teams kind of expose the outside, on them and maybe the inside lanes, running lanes as well. So, I think the defense is actually still, again, it could look great some weeks, but I still think it's a work in progress in terms of being to where the Raiders want to be. They want to win a Super Bowl. They could get there. I think they're heading in that direction. So that's what I mean by that. So I almost think Raiders are like a team that, I think I said this before too. They're like a team that they're going to be very good this year. Like they can be in the playoffs. They can win 10, 11, 12 games. But they're a team that's like 1 year away while being a 10, 11, 12 win team. I think with one more offseason, I think it can be a Super Bowl favorite, really. So I can't wait to see how they play this year, but what they look like at this time next year as well. Just one of those teams for some reason. Chargers went 10 to 13 range. I like what they did this offseason. They got a lot better. I think Justin Herbert is a fantastic quarterback, and he's only getting better as well. Young offense that's continuing to get better. I don't think the receiving unit is going to play, even though they're productive. I didn't think they played great last year because they dropped the ball a lot. They're going to be better this year. They're going to be better to help Justin Herbert more, and Herbert's going to be better himself. And there was a lot of moments that were more negative than positive when it came from Brandon Staley and his decision-making, more so on offense, even though he's defensive coach. And I think they could be on the other side of that. It could very easily use a flip of a coin type situations or those fourth down calls, so that they can be maybe more on the positive side of things. Defensively, they got better at the pass rush. Khalil Mack. The run defense needs to be better. I said this all offseason. They made it better. How much better is it? You can't just add guys and say, oh, it's a lot better, and then we got to wait and see. It should be better, though. Secondary is pretty damn deep. So I just really like this team. They kind of choked some games last year. The Chargers kind of been doing that for, since they've been the Chargers, So is it just, there's some teams out there that are kind of like that. My Vikings are one of them, unfortunately. So do the Chargers just carry that, and then that could prevent them from getting the higher end, 11, 12, 13 wins. It's possible. But that's a very good team, so I think they should be in this range here. The Chiefs, I got the same thing, 10 to 13. They could very well have the best offense in football, which can get them up there alone. No Tyreek Hill. How does that affect them? I think they'll be fine as long as their guys are healthy. They got Juju Smith-Schuster, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, guys that had the injury. So that's kind of the question there. Good offense line. We don't have to talk about their offense really that much. It's going to be a very good offense. Defense, some adjustments. I could see it being better. I could see it being worse. That's kind of a tough projection there for them, but I feel pretty good about them. I think everybody would in the 10 to 13 range. Cardinals, I originally had, this is another tough one, I originally had 8 to 11. I had 8 to 11, and I'm still 50-50 on 8 to 11 or 7 to 10 range of win totals. Why I went 7 to 10 last second, I'm like, they started off insane last year. They were the best team in football for a very long time, and they still are 11-win team. They're probably not gonna. They could start good because they're a tough team to deal with early on, but they're probably not gonna have that insane portion of a season again, especially with DeAndre Hopkins out. And I do feel like they got worse in terms of their roster. They kind of lost more than they gained. I hear some adjustments being made on defense, though, that I do like. And then Kyler Murray's young player continuing to improve, so they could be better that way. I didn't see them having that crazy portion of the season streak going, where therefore I felt a little more comfortable with 7 to 10 versus the 8 to 11 with them. I still think they're kind of a work in progress. They'll probably go. I think it's a team that because they didn't do anything really this offseason, and they'll probably go crazy next offseason. That's kind of what I think about the Cardinals. So, it's a team with a big range. Like if I wanted to cheat and have a bigger range, I could see like the 7 to 11. If we wanted to make it one more there, but felt good about the 7 to 10 there. Seahawks went 4 to 7, which some people may be predicting them to be the worst team in football. They're always competing in some way. I know they don't have Russell Wilson anymore, but they're always competing in some way. They got some sneaky guys on defense. They still have stars throughout this team as well. They have weapons. So I think most people probably would be at 3 to 6 range, but I went to 4 to 7 for that reason. I can actually see them winning 7 games because they have those playmakers, and they're kind of just used to. I don't think they really win last year, and they weren't terrible. But they're kind of just used to being in that range, of a team. 49ers went 8 to 11. Very good team, well-coached team. I think they could be a little inconsistent, though. Trey Lance, I like what I'm seeing and hearing from him lately. I think he's going to be fine, but he'll have his hiccups, so they'll be a little inconsistent. Offensive line seems like it's worse than it was in the past. I mean, they have the very best offensive lineman in football in Trent Williams, but the interior does scare me a little bit as well. Does it affect the run game, which it's still going to be a great run game, but it's been so strong, so dominant. It's won games alone. And already some injuries you see across the defensive line to start training camp. Now some guys in the secondary that already have their week 1 in jeopardy. And just the Niners, it feels like every other year, like they're the most depleted team injury-wise in football. So I kind of worry about that as well. But they're good enough to be, that 11 win team, that 12 as well. But because of they could have the growing pains, the hiccups, not many of them. 1 or 2 is enough to maybe win 8 games, 9 games. So, I felt pretty good about the 8 to 11 range, but they should definitely be fighting for a playoff spot there. I think most of us have them in there. And then the Rams, I have the 11 to 14 range. for them. I actually worry about the durability with them too, because we hear about guys kind of beat up. Sounds like they're playing it safe with Cam Akers, but the running back room has already been hurt. The whole thing pretty much has already been hurt. Matthew Stafford dealing with injuries, and I'm kind of remembering last year was weird. He played every single game all through the Super Bowl. It's kind of been a problem in the past, so you do worry about a little bit about the durability concerns. So could they be more of a 10 to 13 range? I thought about it, but they're just a lot better than a lot of NFC teams. They're at the top of the NFC right now. I'd say with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and there could be other sneaky teams there, but they're going to win 11 to 14 games. They're going to, unless something catastrophic happens long term, which we're not predicting in this video. So I felt good about 11 to 14 for them. So, I like this video. I had a lot of fun doing this here and making it somewhat challenging. I was originally going to do the range in general, but I wanted to make it a little bit more challenging, see how many of these are right. I think a very good amount of them will be right. I'm confident in my predictions here. So you guys can play along in the comment section. And then you can follow us on Twitter. A lot of talk on there with you guys. Always live updates, news, rumors, talking during games. Here on the channel, subscribe, turn notifications on because we have full NFL coverage. But that is going to do it for this one. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.